Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from a hotel on the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy, Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we are looking at Thursday night here, just a 2-game slate here tonight in the NBA. Nate, do want to make sure you're liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We are coming back at you guys each and every weekday of this NBA regular season. Have our game line picks as well as these player props videos that we love to bring you each and every weekday. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have all of our great written content and the like on there for you guys all season long. Also have our great odds finder tool on there. That's where you can go ahead and make sure you're shopping those lines and offerings to the best of your ability all NBA season long. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into our game of the night that we're talking about here. Milwaukee is taking on the Sixers in Philly in this one. Bucks are +4, 152 on the money line. 225 right now is the total. I believe it's been bet down actually to 223.5 at the moment on most of these books. So let's get into everything Philly and Milwaukee here. What are you looking at to kick things off?
I'm just a little confused about the line here. It seems kind of like wrong team favored. I mean, the Bucks are going to be missing some key guys here early in the season. Middleton, Ingles, Pat Connaughton out indefinitely. But it's not like this is a random regular season, dog days of the season game where they're just like, oh, we got some guys out, let's loaf, whatever. Maybe it's because the Bucks came out so slow last season with guys banged up. I don't necessarily expect them to repeat that. I mean, we've talked about Giannis coming out of the gates like a bat out of hell, and him being the best player on the floor here, of course. Look, we were high on the Sixers as a futures bet, as a regular season futures bet. We're even higher on the Bucks as, your championship favorites because of Giannis, because they should have Brook Lopez for a whole season. And we talked about in that futures that they have a 73% win rate with Brolo since 2018. Have struggled a little bit without Middleton, but I mean, they did just finish the season without him, so they're at least used to playing without him. And they've got some experienced wings now. Wes Matthews, Jordan Nwora, a little more comfortable in his role. We'll see what we get with the rookie Beauchamp, but however you want to pronounce it, when he gets into the rotation here.
Yeah.
For me, it's mostly just about Giannis, and it's mostly about what the Sixers showed they aren't going to be good at early in the season here, that they really showed they need time to gel with these new pieces on the fringe parts of their roster. It was a lot of standing around and watching Harden and Embiid play a two-man game. And those guys had 12 of the team's 16 assists. Only 16 assists to 14 turnovers is dreadful. They allowed Boston to shoot 56% from the field. Granted, most of that from the perimeter. I mean, still 44 paint points to a Boston team that doesn't usually attack that much is concerning when now you go up against Giannis and Drew, who gets to bully either Maxey or Harden all night if he wants, right? So I think there's a lot of advantages for Milwaukee to press in order to be able to stay in this game. And so for either +4 or for a +150 money line bet, I will definitely take the underdogs just because of the value there, because I see this as an early season toss-up, and I lean more towards the team that has, the most dominant player in basketball right now, a guy who's averaged 32, 15, 6.5 in 8 games against Philly, and sure enough, the Bucks have won 7 of those 8 games.
All makes sense. No major qualms with anything you said. I'll be perfectly transparent. I'm not going to put any money on this game on the outcome of it, nor am I going to put anything on really a total of this game. I really, we talk about it. I really want a few weeks to sort of see what's going on in the NBA right now. I think there's been a lot of turnover. There's been a lot of change. There's a lot of differences in terms of some guys coming back from injury, some guys on new teams, and the like. So I don't love I don't feel super confident about either the Bucks or the 76ers in terms of the spread here at 4 or so. Neither do I with the total. All that said, I think the fact that Chris Middleton is out is something that we can look at. That's sort of where I start my analysis of this game is 7-9 for the Bucks last season without him versus 44-22 with him. I also just think it's just they're a different offensive squad. And I mean, what that means and the game theory that's sort of led to with Chris Middleton being out over the last season, obviously in the playoffs, and just when he's been out over the last couple of years in general. Giannis goes bananas. Drew Holiday does his best to score. It doesn't make him more efficient at all by any means. It just means he has a bit more volume and responsibility on the offensive end. He also gets a bunch of rebounds, so I like his 4.5 boards potentially. But I do look a little bit more inside the game at specific players in this one a little bit more, just because, like I said, the shooting isn't quite there. There's just a lot more forced on offense for Milwaukee when Chris is not in the lineup. And now you talk about the fact that they're not going to be able to make up for it with the guys that are injured, like you said. We're really excited to see what Joe Ingles was able to do with Chris Middleton out. How would he be as a sort of serviceable role player that and really step up a bit in the shooting and scoring ability as well with Middleton out, playmaking obviously as well. Connaughton also out, another guy that you would have relied on to sort of fill in for that scoring. So it just leads me to not feel very comfortable about what's going to happen. It just leads me to also feel pretty good about who's going to step up on that Milwaukee team. Obviously, Giannis, if you look at his props all over the place, you're getting things like 0.5 three-pointers made at minus 190, or 11.5 boards at minus 140, right? Or 5.5 assists at minus 150. Like, I don't want any of that stuff from him. I know he's going to go off, and I know he's going to do really fun things to watch. But I just, all those things are so high, and he's got to force all that stuff that I just don't know how, I think the offense just sort of is just not going to flow as well for that team. Philly, I would feel a lot better about picking them, obviously, if they had played much better in that opening game. It was just a travesty as far as I'm concerned when you have Robert Williams III out for Boston and Joel Embiid ends with, less than 30 points, basically less than 25 points at that point. Just ugly and not something that I like. But I do lean on them to sort of fight back in this one. I don't think they want to go too far into the season, losing to too many East Coast or Eastern Conference teams that they would potentially be playing in the playoffs and vying for a number 1 seed right now. So I do think that there's something there for them. It's not going to be the 3-point shooting for Milwaukee tonight. I think we've seen Philly really shut that down as we did last season. And it's if Milwaukee needs to rely on 3-point shooting to really score points off of Giannis tonight, I just don't see it happening, especially once you add PJ Tucker to that wing defense for the 76ers. I really like what they're going to be able to bring on defense, even against especially against a team like Milwaukee, who's a bit shorthanded right now.
Shorthanded on the wing, in the backcourt a little bit, but they have plenty of options to throw at Embiid with Ibaka and Bobby Portis, who, by the way, averages 16 and 9 in his last 10 without Middleton. That's another guy to look at for some props here, probably. But I mean, I think when you have guards that are well rested, like Drew can go 37 minutes tonight and press his advantages. I agree with you. I mean, I'm probably going to put a small play, if anything, here. It's just the value in place that's intriguing. I think Philly's going to definitely make some adjustments from what was really kind of a lackluster opening in Boston, and maybe it's a little bit more of team-oriented ball. So that's kind of looking at Harden to go under 9.5 assists or to not have a double-double, which is even money at DK, basically to go under 10 assists. He's averaging, a solid 22.5, 8 assists in his last 3 versus Milwaukee. He's a minus 37 in those games. So that's more to my point about Philly's awful defense. And I think you can look at the total as it gets bet down here. I mean, why not? I mean, Milwaukee's defense was pretty shoddy last year when they were missing guys. Mostly because they're missing Brook Lopez, but we still don't know he's how healthy he is. He's old at this point. They averaged 119 against Philly in those last 8 meetings, and Philly's offense was impressive. I mean, they put up a lot of empty stats. Sort of wearing the personality of James Harden now, it seems, if they're going to just fill it up and then not play any defense on the other end. So, I'll be watching it closely to see how we want to play these teams going forward. But I think as far as an opener, you're getting more value on a team that we believe can win the championship, and that has thrived in this matchup. And I guess, some capitulation to saying the Warriors and Celtics wouldn't just come out and pick up where they left off in game ones, because they both sure as hell did. And if the Bucks finished pretty strong, pushing the Celtics to the brink there without Middleton, I think they pick up where they left off.
That's fair. Look, it's combating sort of motivations here as well. Milwaukee, the motivation of the way things sort of ended for them last year. Philly, the motivation for how they came out in game one, really, of this season. Joel, has incredible stats against Milwaukee. Obviously, Brolo is not exactly a guy that will be able to hang with him in the meat department, right? In the beefy department, if you will. Embiid's a bigger frame, definitely able to handle Brolo down low. It's not like he's a Embiid stopper by any means, like 28 points and 10.5 boards in his last 4 matchups for Embiid versus these Bucks. I believe 3 of those didn't have Brolo, but the one that did have them in there, he still scored 29. So I still think that there's a reason that, like I said, conflicting things here, but I do think for Milwaukee with a lack of Chris Middleton, at least that sort of narrows your focus of what you can depend upon for the Bucks a little bit. And that's kind of my main fun angle tonight. So in this one, Nate, we are going to look at the second game of this Thursday night 2-game slate, and that is the 2 teams from Los Angeles, the Clippers taking on the Lakers. The Lakers are the home team for whatever that matters. They're pretty much the home team every time these teams play at Crypto Arena, whatever it's called now. The Clippers are -5.5 this one, -240 on the money line for them if you're interested in that as well. 224 is the total in this one. I honestly kind of lean total as my preferred bet, Nate, but what's the first thing that you're looking at in this showdown of the LA teams?
Yeah, I think the total would be your best bet if you're looking for, sort of an even money option here. The Lakers, I think, will cover. I thought they would cover in game one, but I think this is a little bit of a better spot, considering the Clippers are not going to be firing on all cylinders the way that the champs were on ring night. That something's got to give here in 7 straight wins for the Clippers over the Lakers. The last one, Reggie Jackson had 40 points and just disrespected all over the Lakers, which provides some motivation. The previous 3, 8 total points. So that would be certainly a cover for the Lakers in each of those. We're still going to have to see how the Lakers are able to play with this awful spacing they have here. I think ESPN wrote a stat that Westbrook and Davis are both bottom 5 on jump shots, effective field goal percentage over the last several years, and they certainly look like it. But they got 60 paint points against the champs, and the Clippers, we're going to see how they play their big man rotations. That's the weakness of this team right now, right? I mean, Zubac is not really a new age 5 in the NBA. I mean, Davis should be able to get around him pretty routinely, and then they might go with Covington at the 5 for extended period, and Davis should just punish him down low. Maybe just stop shooting jump shots, man. In his last 2 against the Clippers, he has banged down low for sure. 28.5 points, 13.5 rebounds on 56% field goal shooting. So I think they have an advantage to press there. The Clippers did allow the 4th most paint points at home last year, so that's where they should look to get their hay. And Westbrook started, it wasn't awful. He actually had a better plus minus than the other 2 stars. 7 for 12, attacking. And the biggest thing was Darvin Ham. I think why you like the over. Darvin Ham was really clearly emphasizing, let's run with this team because we don't have any shooting. And we have 2 guys in Westbrook and LeBron who can just push and transition and get buckets. So I think as long as that's their strategy, you got to like LeBron's assists, which are still so low from last year when they were playing too much half-court ball. He was kicking out to too many guys who can't shoot. Now he had a nice line in that opener. His points and assists combined is still only 1 higher at 34.5. So, I mean, his just assists straight up at FanDuel, plus 114 for him to get 7 dimes. I like that. And if you're looking at the same game parlay options here, plus 475 for LeBron to get 30 again, for the Lakers to cover, for this game to go over. I don't hate all that for nearly 5-1 on your money.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you're saying. As you already kind of mentioned, I'm just looking at pace, right, in this one, and I'm just looking for for the Lakers to continue running up and down the floor. I think, look, I do think there's the possibility that Darvin Ham made that strategy specifically for those Warriors, knowing, one, that the Warriors do love to show out as soon as they make a shot. Steph got burned for no less than 3 easy fast break points that his guy got while he was busy either making a nice pass and then staring it down and doing one of these things where he looks at his hand or he like stares at the bench or whatever. And it's like 3 times in a row, his dude got burnt. And that was the same concept for Jordan Poole as well. Happened to him a couple of times. So I think there was something there. There was an actual strategy that Darvin Ham was like, take the showboaters and make them pay for watching their shots go in afterwards. And that led to some of the pace. But you talk about the points in the paint, 25% of their points were fast break points. Last season, Memphis led the league with 15% of their points being fast break points per game. So the Lakers blew that out of the water with 25%. That's where their points in the paint came from, right? I mean, they did have, Bron and AD don't really have. There's not much of an answer for them in the paint in terms of who's guarding them usually, unless it's a strong 5 or a very strong 4. So they're able to do that. But like I said, the majority of those paint points came from all this fast break stuff. So I really do just start with that total there at 225.5. Not feel too concerned with it, because I do think also LeBron and AD are going to come out and look pretty clean. And if Russ is going to continue playing in the second lineup, no, he's not going to help them win too many games. But I think that the scoring and the pace will remain high when the second units come in and Russ is playing on those units. So that's really all they have there. I don't have much for the Clippers. I mean, the last time we saw, like you said, we saw Reggie Jackson scoring 40 all over them. He was high stepping down the floor and running all over the place, and it was a ton of fun to watch. But I don't know what I'm getting from a team that has Kawhi back in the lineup. I love the fact that the Clips were the second best offense in clutch time last season. Obviously, that doesn't account for Kawhi being in there because he was not. So, PG, Mook at the time, and Reggie Jackson alone were really handling that fourth quarter for the Clips in a way that, shit, you throw Kawhi in there, why would you not like it just as much, right? Or potentially even more. I don't think he's a guy that comes in and disrupts your offense. He's really, he can get his own bucket however he wants. And when it's not his turn, he's at least not not a nuisance on offense sometimes the way that Russ can be. So I would like to take the Clippers on the money line at minus 240. I don't feel great about parlaying that with anything, and I don't feel strongly enough about it to go ahead and take it. I think that the Lakers could pull this one off. So I lean towards the total. I do lean a little bit also towards LeBron, as you're talking about here in this game. And look, I'm going to continue to take under on AD's rebounds, because he's not going to be banging down low the same way that we might have seen him when he had a lot more weight. I mean, his whole game this year, and I think the reason they're making those fast break plays is predicated on his athleticism, the weight that he's lost, and the way that he's able to move a lot more quickly up and down the floor. So I think you continue to expect him to not get those. His props for rebounds has been about 9.5 pretty consistently since he's played the last couple seasons, and it's usually at plus money like it is right now on DK at plus 115 for him to get 10 boards. I don't want that. I still would take the minus 130 under 10 rebounds for him. He had 6 last game, and it's not a stat that I see him getting close to 10 a game in this season.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the most important thing you talked about was that second unit for both sides, keeping the pace up and keeping the scoring up, because now I think we have John Wall is going to lead that second unit for the Clippers, and he's talked about how much he wants to get out in the open court, first time playing in like 2 years, basically. Norman Powell on the wing as well. I mean, that's really good news for the over if you can have the starters come out and then have the scoring maybe even ramp up even more. I mean, yeah, Kawhi is a defensive stopper. They have held LeBron in check a little bit in these last 4 games. I think that's more about Ty Lue, obviously, with Kawhi not in the lineup. But we don't necessarily expect him to play, light balls to the wall more than 30 minutes here in the opener. We expect him to ease into the season. He was not necessarily a truly elite defender in the regular season the last couple of years. He's always saving himself for the playoffs. And the Lakers, that pace was actually 114 in their opener, to put a number on it, which is insane.
Yep.
So I think over is a fair play here. Definitely, if you want, and if it does come down to the stretch, to a clutch situation down the stretch, I think the Clippers, because of the coaching advantage, you definitely have to like them. Darvin Ham's still getting his feet wet here, and Ty Lue is just a master of the in-game adjustments. But The law of averages in sports makes me think eventually, they've won 3 straight season openers. They've won 7 straight overall. Eventually the Lakers are going to get these guys. And so I would rather take the 5.5 than get the negative odds on the Clippers to win this.
Nate, let's go ahead and jump into player props. We're bringing you guys about 4 or so that we feel super strongly about. Got a couple extras in there for you today, a few bonus ones that Nate is also liking on this little 2-game slate. So pretty fun that we've got a number of things to talk about here. Nate, let's get into your first prop of the night. Like I said, we only have 2 games tonight, Lakers and Clippers, and then the other one is those Bucks and the 76ers. So plenty of stars playing tonight. Nate, who's your first one that you're going with?
Yeah, it's LeBron again, and I mentioned it in the game video. Just the increased pace that the Lakers are playing with is going to provide him a lot more opportunities to pile up stats. It's also going to give him easier opportunities to score in the paint and to find guys that for easy assists rather than last year when his assists were down for the almost a career low, I believe, because nobody around him could hit a shot. But in the opener, at that heightened pace, the Lakers played 114 possessions against the Warriors. LeBron goes for 31, 15, and 8 at a 35% usage rate. And his points and assist prop, we pointed out, was absurdly low at 33.5. Sure enough, he almost scores 33. Now it's 34.5. Granted, the Clippers have frustrated in the last couple seasons, especially last year, holding him to 23 points per game. But the usage, of course, still there because he's LeBron, 33%. The Clippers did struggle to contain guys in the paint last year, so it doesn't necessarily make sense that LeBron was not able to get going. And when I talk about just, in the game video that the Clippers won 7 straight here, something's got to give. The Lakers can't continue to take all this disrespect. And while they weren't able to hang with the defending champs, there's a lot more unknowns here with the Clippers, reintegrating guys, trying to work out their rotations on the first night of the season. And if you want to bet on the Lakers, at least, not, emerging from the basement in terms of just being a doormat, you just keep betting on LeBron because last season, even when they were awful, he was still having a great year. And I think, 6.5 assists at plus money, this combined points and assists when, again, he should be expected to score around 30. And then one of the greatest passers ever to get about 5 dimes gets you over that. I think it's one of the safest props on the slate.
I think it's going to be all season. If you're LeBron, you're going for the scoring title. You're going for stat padding in general because I think that this team is not built for the championship. They're not built for the playoffs. They're built for the play-in. To be honest with you, this league is predicated on 3-and-D at this point, and guys who are 6'6" and taller who can also dribble and attack from the top. So they don't have those players. They had those players. They dropped them or released them, but they don't have them anymore. So I think LeBron knows that. And look, since his second or third season in the NBA, LeBron's been capable of scoring 30 when he decides he wants to. That's just the fact of the matter. I think as he's gotten older, he's sort of reserved some of that energy for being able to play late into the season, and obviously thrown in the towel in a few games here and there, and sort of given up on defense at times. And I think you're just going to see playing more of that throughout the whole season, where it's just him padding stats and getting those points and getting past Kareem eventually. So, he's going to be a good bet all season long as he's healthy, which is obviously key that he's healthy. So I'm going to take an opponent for his second one here, Mr. Paul George, someone that might be guarding him a bit. We'll see how often Kawhi is also on LeBron as well. But Paul George, what I'm looking at here is what happens when Kawhi comes into the game and is in there with Paul George. So I'm looking at his 3-pointers, 2.5 right now on FanDuel, gets you -110 over that. Over 4.5 assists actually is a +100 on DK. And I specify those two because one, he's had those with plenty of those against the Lakers in the last few matchups that he's played them, dating back to the last 4 times he's played the Lakers. He's averaging 23 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, exactly 2.5 made threes a game on 42% 3-point shooting. But what happens that when Kawhi comes into the lineup with Paul George, things are just very, they shift in a way that makes a lot of sense, right? He's taking fewer shots because when Kawhi's not in there, he needs to take a lot more. So he's a lot more, efficient. His 3-pointers goes from 2.5 made a game with Kawhi or without Kawhi to 3.3 when Kawhi's in there. His assists go up when Kawhi's in there as well, from about 4.5 to about 5.5. All things that make perfect sense to me when you talk about, Kawhi being in there and being able to control things better. So he's able to kick to Paul George rather than Paul George having to be the focal point of bringing the ball up and things like that. You've also got then the assists where Kawhi's a better player. So if Paul George is driving and he's kicking to Kawhi, the likelihood that then Kawhi makes that basket is higher than any other player on the clips there. So it's just pretty clearly logical why those two stats would be improved for Paul George when Kawhi Leonard is in there. And I think that you're getting some pretty good value on those tonight in a game where I think he's definitely going to look to get three threes made for sure, at least.
Yeah, the threes, I think, is the best bet here. It's surprisingly low. I think people assuming that he just won't be launching because Kawhi's in the lineup, but that's Paul George's game, man, is the step back three. And he attempted about 8 per game, regardless of venue last year. You look at his career since he joined the Clippers at, formerly known as Staples here, shooting 42.7% from deep and hitting 3.3 threes per game at that arena is the California kid. So I definitely understand hitting that prop at its current stance. This is the 2.5. It seems just way too low. If you can get that -110, I'll be all over that. Just kind of going a little out of the box here with the Bucks Sixers and not taking a star, taking PJ Tucker to get 6 points or to hit 2 threes, basically. We don't expect him to really take anything but threes unless he's cleaning up some offensive rebounds. But he did manage, 11 points per game his last 2 against Milwaukee with the Heat last year. Also added 7.5 rebounds and 5.5 assists. So I don't hate 10.5 PRA, which is also very low. You can get that at Caesars. The other books have him at about 11.5 for those. He had 6 points, 4 boards. He played 33 minutes in his debut for the Sixers, and that's important here, chasing the playing time, because he's obviously going to be their best option to guard Giannis. He's obviously going to be fired up for that. A legendary practice performer who certainly got into it with Giannis last year when he was with the Bucks. And, him and Embiid are, kind of the fire of this team now. They're going to try to set the tone, play better defense in this one. And as long as he can stay out of foul trouble, he should be on the floor long enough to just back into 6 points here. Again, mostly by taking those corner threes, which has become his specialty.
I'm with it. I'm always scared. PJ Tucker points is always like the equivalent of taking, a quarterback's rushing yard prop at like 7.5, where you're just like, look, he's going to have like 3 opportunities to get this, and he needs to make the best of those opportunities, right? Like, how many threes is he going to put up? Like 4, 5 max. Like if he puts up 5 3-point attempts, I don't know, maybe that's just something to show that that's where they're forcing it. But it is an interesting prop where it's like, it's so low and it's like, dude, just trip over the line of scrimmage, quarterback, and you'll get your 3 yards, but like somehow you fail to get it. So that's the only thing that scares me about this type of prop. But I can understand why, if you're the Bucks, you would be forcing the ball out of the hands of Harden, Maxey, and Embiid as much as you can, where you'll be leaving PJ Tucker probably pretty open because you can't afford to put 2 guys, if even 1 guy, on him when he's that far out. So I don't hate it. At -104, it seems like at least you're getting something there. I do feel a little bit better about the PRA as well, because I do know he's going to be banging down low. So let me finish things off. I know you also liked James Harden assists. I'll let you talk about that briefly, but I did want to say I like Drew Holiday points, just because it's a moment where, once again, we don't have Chris Middleton. We also don't have Joe Ingles or Pat Connaughton. So Drew's going to need to score, and I think you'll see that like he did pretty much all playoffs. He really came out in the first and second quarters and really tried to establish things when when Chris wasn't around. So 18.5 points at -115 on DK. He gets 3 more field goal attempts a game when Chris is not in there, a few more minutes a game. He has about half a point more a game, and there's no Ingles or Compton in here. So someone besides Giannis needs to score close to 20, if not 20 points. To me, obviously, Drew Holiday is the easy call there. So if it's going to be under 20 for him at 18.5, I think that's fair without Chris Middleton in there.
Yeah, I mean, I have no argument with that, really. Holiday's going to have to step up, and he has a good matchup here. If he can get Maxey down low, that's barbecue chicken. Right. My thought for the bonus pick here, is Harden under 9.5 assists. I talked about in the game video. I think he had 7 dimes in the opener. He had the ball in his hands an unhealthy amount for the Sixers team. I mean, it was just total 2-man game, him and Embiid and everybody else standing around losing their rhythm. So I think they'll try to distribute the touches a little better here. I think no double-double is even better. I mean, the odds are pretty much even at DK, and he could have a great line. I mean, we're on board with the Harden bounce-back season. He could have 38-8, and you're still cashing that. And so I think that's one of the best values you can find here on the short slate.
38-8. Yeah, that would be a hell of a game for Harden tonight. But either way, yeah, I think we're going to continue to go with some of these props that, I think there's a lot of reason to feel comfortable about things like LeBron, Paul George, et cetera. So feeling pretty good about our props tonight, Nate. That is all the time we have for you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We're coming back to you guys each and every weekday of this regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.